Hey, welcome back to Love Edge Logistics, your logistics and supply chain explainer. Although today we're going to be continuing to dig a bit further into the world of business and how things are priced and why and how much it is that you're actually paying for something and what the businesses are paying for. There's lots of that we're going to go into, so we're going to be steering away from supply chain logistics, but really we're going to be getting into some really interesting things and really giving you some secrets that people really do not know. So as you can see, we're going to be talking today about price and sales. This one is really going to be coming off of the back of the last video that we had, cost and price, and how those are very different things. We talked about what goes into costs and how they work. And then what goes into the price that you're going to pay for. And now we're going to really dig into that specific subject because it's really interesting. Now, I know that most of you are probably still reeling from my last video. It's totally okay to feel the way that you're feeling. I also felt the same way when I found out that businesses aren't charging me based on the cost of an item. Now, let's talk about price and sales, as we sort of alluded to in the last video. Well, I said the way to tell a company to lower the price of something is to stop buying it. And now we're going to really dig into that specific comment because it's really interesting. So as I said, companies want to make the most amount of money possible. That's sort of their goal and kind of why they exist. And there's lots of ways for them to do that, but today we're going to be talking about maximizing profit. And profit, again, is the difference between cost and price. If you forgot, let's go back really quickly and watch the last video where we sort of discussed that. Now, in the world of economics, they like to talk in terms of curves. And if you're familiar with ninth grade math, it really just means a graph. This would be a curve. This specifically is what's called a demand curve. And really what you should know from here is that So in this curve, this bottom part here is price, and this top part here is the amount demanded or quantity demanded, or like how many things you sell. So you can see that as price is low, people want a whole lot of it. But as price goes up, people don't want a whole lot. Boom. That's it. Easy peasy. You're all economists. Okay, but really we need to dig into this because it's never as simple as this might make it seem, and it's a pretty deep concept. Now, companies want to price their products to maximize their profits, which is another way of saying they want to price where they'll make the most amount of money, or where willingness to pay is the highest for the most amount of people. Now that's a lot, and I should say that of course a company wants to make as much money as possible. And I hear you yelling that Google basically gives away their stuff for free, and I'm not gonna talk about free stuff right now because they're playing a totally different game. Now, for companies playing the normal game, the goal is to make as much money as possible, which means putting the price of their item right at the highest point, right at this point, or right in the middle, where you're going to get as much money as possible from as many people as possible. Now that that's out of the way, let's talk about sales and how you buying things is such a strong signal to companies about how they're pricing. Now, the absolute best way of knowing what your customers are willing to pay is an auction, which is obviously impractical in most cases. And auctions are entirely deserving of their own video. But just assume that since no one wants to put their grocery cart up for auction every time you go to the store, companies need another way to price. And that's why we make them guess. Guessing is not necessarily what they're doing. There's obviously a bit more to it. There's a lot of complicated research that goes on, but ultimately it is to some extent just guesswork. Isn't that fun? Even multi-million-dollar companies are just guessing at crazy important things all the time. Now that we've established that pricing is mostly guesswork, we need to talk about why it's such a strong signal to stop buying stuff when it's overpriced. See, businesses have to sell products, and they have to keep selling them as much as possible. And when they stop selling, then they have to figure out how to get rid of the stuff that they've already bought and how to get you to buy their stuff again. They obviously don't want to lower the price that you may pay. They hate it, and it's the absolute last thing that businesses want to do. So the only thing that we customers can do to lower prices is to make them really feel the pain by not buying their stuff. Easy, right? Now, the hard part is getting enough people to stop buying stuff, because there's obviously stuff that you need to buy to, survive, like food. So some businesses will be a lot quicker to respond to lower sales Really, this is going to be like things that aren't as necessary as stuff like food. Now, to every rule, there is an exception. In the world of prices, the exception is luxury goods. Prices in that rarefied air only tend to rise and to never fall, because the whole point is that it's not accessible to most people. And that's actually part of their marketing plan. Humans are kind of fickle creatures. We want what we can't have, and we're willing to pay more for things that we can't have. So there's a lot that goes into luxury goods. And if you're in the luxury goods world, good job. Anyway, since they're an exception, I'm not really going to talk about them, but we probably will do a separate video on them in the future, because it's really fascinating how luxury goods companies, one, price, but how they manufacture and how they source and lots of stuff. All right, so I hope you walk away from this video with a better understanding of pricing and sales, and how those two have a really strong correlation to one another, where cost and price really didn't. And this is a really strong relationship. Companies are really kind of always trying to aim for this middle portion of this curve. And so they're going to constantly be guessing at numbers, really trying to increase as much as possible without really seeing a drop in demand. And then when you do see a drop in demand, they'll move prices back. But then they really have to find something to do with the rest of their stuff. There's lots of intricacies to that. We'll talk about off-market pricing, and what that sort of looks like, really outlet stores, and when and why they work and how they do all that stuff. But all that to say, thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you learned something. I hope it was informative. If it was, please like and subscribe to the video, share with a friend to help the channel grow. We've seen some really great growth so far, and would really like to keep pushing on that. But all that being said, if you have a comment, please leave it in the section below. I always read them, and I'm happy to either answer them if it's a simple thing. We'll probably do a Q&A video later in the future, or if it's really good, then I'll do an entire video on the thing. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope it's been informational, and I hope you have a great day.